The next time somebody tries to tell you it is a quote-unquote sleepy slate, you can know then from that point forward, you can ignore all of their football commentary because they've obviously never watched this beautiful game before that we call college football. Folks, hell of a one. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. This is the Overtime Drive, SEC Unfiltered SEC Football Show, the best SEC football show on the internet. It is Sunday night, which means it's Sunday Fun Day, and we are reacting, overreacting, giving our hot takes on the weekend that was on the gridiron in the SEC. And folks, week 2 did not disappoint. Once again, I'm Chris Phillips. He is Cole the Bear Thompson. We appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. As always, before we get going, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast. If you get your podcast, you can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And as always, we are powered by our friends over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/SECU to get $250 in bonus bets today. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, this is the Overtime Drive SEC Unfiltered SEC Football Show, the best SEC football show on the internet. And it is Sunday night, September the 7th, which means this is Sunday Fun Day, week 2 edition, as we react to everything that took place in the SEC. For those of you tuned in live, whether it be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, we appreciate your patience. Yours truly just got off the road, spent about 10 hours trekking from Oklahoma back to Nashville, Tennessee. But the bottom line is this: we are here, we are thriving, and folks, we have got a lot to discuss. I know I've got a lot I want to say. I know Bear does as well. And once again, guys, I'm Chris Phillips. Pleased to be joined by my right-hand man, my partner in crime, one of the best in the business to do it, Cole the Bear Thompson. Bear, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time. Appreciate you bearing with me and having patience. No pun intended, by the way. Appreciate you bearing with me about 10 hours or so on the road from Norman back to Nashville. By the way, it was worth every second. We'll get into that more in just a minute. But either way, Bear, really excited to chop it up with you. And again, next time somebody says it's a sleepy slate, I don't want to hear it, Bear. I don't want to hear it.
You know, I was told by a couple of people this past weekend that the betting lines are going to be terrible, that this was going to be a very, very, very lackluster weekend. I could do something called take the weekend off. You know, I didn't have to go sit on my couch or crack open a nice cold one, talk about games that were on our television screens, react to matchups that we saw. I didn't have to do any of those things because of why would I when it was a one-ranked matchup weekend? Because that's what your common fan likes to say. That's what the people who don't live, eat, and breathe the sport the way that you and I and the sickos joining us at 9, 10, 11 o'clock, whatever time zone you're in right now, do. Because if you want to know why, because they understand that a sleepy Saturday does not exist. It's just a scary Saturday. And we had a fun, scary Saturday. We saw an upset down in Gainesville, a potential firing in the works. We saw the beatdown of beatdowns from a team that you reside in the same city as. And by the way, you have to now eat crow because if I told you this was going to happen, and what happened out in Blacksburg, Virginia, we had the border war back on our television screens, and it did not disappoint after the first quarter if you were a Mizzou fan, and it certainly had its fair share of fireworks. We have to eat crow because we both picked Ole Miss to not only cover, but we said belt to ass, and that defense delivered. Taylen Green, you won me some money. I knew you were going to win me some money. Alabama, hey, look at that. You're back from the dead. You look like a team that could actually go win a national title. It is against a G5 Louisiana Monroe, but still, you look like that team. So spare me, and I will tell all of you in the comments right now, if you ever hear somebody in your life walk up to you and tell you that this weekend is not that important in the world of college football, this weekend has nothing at all. In fact, for my money, it's probably just going to be a snooze fest that you don't have to be partaking in or even paying attention to. Get off your phone and enjoy life outside. You kick them out of your life. You were allowed to block them. And then when they come to you, you say that Cole the Bear Thompson said, yeah, you know what? This is exactly why I am no longer allowed to have you in my life. Take it up with him. The doctor is waiting in the room. We'll get you a prescription of what is college football Saturdays down in the southeastern region and throughout the sport that we call our humble abode throughout the fall season.
It's only week 2, and Bears coming out of the gate spitting flames like that. My goodness, it's only going to continue to heat up. Bear, that was quite. I'm ready to run through a brick wall right now. Instead of doing that, though, let's talk about these games, Bear, and I want to start with the one that I was at, fortunate enough to be witnessing in Norman, Oklahoma. I'll spend more time tomorrow, by the way, talking about the full-on experience. We are beginning tomorrow on Monday, the Saturday's Unfiltered segment, where it'll just be kind of me, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, however long we want to go, talking about each and every single experience, going in-depth behind the scenes to go along with the vlogs that drop on Wednesday nights. And this one, I can tell you, is going to be an absolute electric factory. But this game itself, Bear, and I will say this, the atmosphere was incredible. I thought it felt like a playoff type of atmosphere. We talked about it all week and talked about it when I got into Norman. My buddies, obviously, are friends of ours that cover the Sooners. We talked about it with Sooners fans, how big this one was, and the atmosphere delivered. Oklahoma fans absolutely brought it, Bear, and I thought they were a big difference in this football game as Oklahoma secures a 24-13 win over the Michigan Wolverines. Bear, I'll just say this, and I don't know that we tout ourselves necessarily as quote-unquote ball knowers. I don't know that we don't have that in our bios necessarily. We don't have to come on here and remind you every single week or every single day that we know a thing or two about a thing or two when it comes to ball. But I say that to say that I feel like this game kind of went as we expected that it would, right? John Mateer made some big plays. I liked Oklahoma at the skill positions versus what Michigan had. Michigan's skill position, guys, my God, Bryce Underwood did not get any help. You and I felt like Brent Venables, trusting him with a defensive game plan against a young quarterback in a hostile environment. You hold him to 9 of 24 for 142 yards. He does not find the end zone. And again, Bear, I was about 20 rows up on the visiting side. I got a really good look at Bryce Underwood. Kid's a specimen. Like, kid's going to be a really darn good football player. He's already obviously immensely talented. But you and I both felt a youngster walking into that environment, it was going to be too much to ask for him. And so I think this game played out the way I thought it would. Bear, we were talking about on Friday, I was asked, Oklahoma will win if they do this. My answer to it, if they rush for more than 100 yards, they will win this football game. And I don't even think it's a debate. Sure enough, they rushed for 138 yards. Now, John Mateer is your leading ball carrier, 19 carries for 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think, Bear, that's probably going to be the reality for them as we go throughout the season. It's going to be a lot of number 10 in the running game. There are pros, there are cons to that we can talk about. But all in all, again, John Mateer, over 300 yards of offense. Big-time ball players make big-time plays in big-time games. This is why you went and got number 10. And again, Bear, I think defensively what I was so encouraged about is that they've got talent. They've got dudes like Kip Lewis is an absolute leader on that defensive side. We've talked about the defensive line all season and how deep they are, but they've got that mentality back. Like there is a nastiness. There is an edge. They brought it to Michigan all night long. They forced the issue. And I'll tell you this, Bear, maybe the most impressive thing to me of the entire game, the fact that at the end of the game, Oklahoma is able to line up and not just run the ball when they wanted to, run it when they needed to, and put that game away and put the final nail in the coffin. It was a game Brent Venables and company had to have. It was a game the Sooners had to have. You could feel that in the air. I could sense that just from the sense of urgency from that football team. Job well done. Mission accomplished. Check that off. And now you move on, again, scoring a big-time victory. And really Bear, they could have won that game by 3 scores.
Yeah.
Not for a couple mistakes, the muffed punt. There were some missed opportunities like on the trick play and the ball goes off his hands. So hell of a time in Norman. Thoroughly enjoyed it. The game absolutely delivered, and Oklahoma fans brought it. And I will say this, Bear. I'll talk about this more tomorrow, I promise. But I want to shout out Sooner Nation. Take a bow. Take a bow. And here's what I'll say. What impressed me the most, Bear, when it came to Oklahoma fans, and we know that every fan base, you got your really good fans, you got your not-so-great fans. It goes with every fan base. But I was so impressed how welcoming Oklahoma fans were to Michigan fans. I saw numerous encounters where Oklahoma fans are saying, hey, guys, best of luck. Like, welcome to Norman. Hey, if you need anything, you can go here for lunch, go here for dinner. You should go to this bar or check this thing out. Oklahoma fans were so hospitable. The hospitality was second to none. Obviously, they were really welcoming to us and embraced us and wrapped their arms around us. But again, take a bow, Sooner Nation. It was a first-class event in every sense of the word, and I'm just grateful I was there to witness it and obviously witness a big Sooners W.
So I did not bring this up enough on the post-game show last night. So let me remind everybody that this game could have been way, way worse than what it actually was. 24-13 final score. But let me remind you that we could sit here and say, hey, you're going to lose the turnover battle. And you're going to lose it pretty soundly. You're going to actually have 2 turnovers, a big interception, and also a fumble on a punt return that's going to set up a scoring drive. You're going to lose that. You're going to allow more explosive plays downfield in the ground game. Justice Haynes is going to go off for 75 rushing yards. You're going to have a couple of plays where your running back room is basically obsolete. And you're going to have to turn to number 10 to be the entirety of your offense. And you're still going to win this football game, and it's not going to feel out of jeopardy. You won in the 3 main elements. We talk about this on the show all the time. Areas that I think you have to have if you want to secure a guaranteed victory. First downs, third down conversions, time of possession. 22-12 in favor of Oklahoma. 9-17 versus 3-14 in favor of Oklahoma. 32-12 versus 27-48. They held the football longer. They made the most of their conversions. They were able to pick up more first downs. They were able to be more connective. And certainly, there are things that you look at in this offense that you know have got to change. The rushing attack, I'm going to just say it as is. If John Mateer is your leading rusher by the season's end, you're getting to the month of October after, let's say, Red River, and you're asking yourself, how much more can his body take before we are going to have to start putting him in bubble wrap and not utilize him in practice simply to have him for the game? So you got to trust that you're going to get something from Blaylock. You got to trust that you're going to get something from Barnes. You got to trust that you're going to get a Jay to not get involved. But the fact is that this is part of the selling point that brought Jean Mateer to Oklahoma, was his overall dynamic dual threat mentality that allowed him to keep plays alive. How many of you actually truly watched Jean Mateer when he was at Washington State? Because the way that he played last night is the way that he plays at Oklahoma. And I mean, the way he played last year at Washington State. That's a calling card of what makes him special. Now, in the SEC, when you go up against great defenses along the likes of South Carolina and Alabama and Mizzou's defense that has turned the corner, a lot of those teams, they're going to make things interesting for you, and you're not going to be able to have that guy be the only answer. But you still can say to yourself, we got ourselves a quarterback. And that was something that we didn't have last season. You also got to give credit to the offensive line. I thought they did a great job of setting up opportunities for Mateer to strike with his legs. He gave him time to throw. Michael Fasusi, the 5-star freshman, looks the part. He's absolutely phenomenal. You have a healthy Deion Burks as your number 1 wide receiver. He had 10 catches for 126 yards. Like the way that we were talking about him last year, we were really, really, really taking a step forward. Like that's what we're talking about at this point. So it's things like that that you say, you are certainly trending in the right direction. And probably the best part of all is that you look at the defense. It's a defense that has that bark back. It's a defense that has that fight back. And guess what? That's a good thing. That's a very, very good thing, because you know that this is not only a signature win for Brent Venables, who need to have that moment down in Norman, but also you have now that opportunity to where all of the things that you wondered throughout the offseason. Did we make sure that we got the right guy calling the shots? Did we hold out a little bit too long for BV to be our guy? And he says, you know what? If I'm going to go down with the ship, I'm going to go down with my defense. I'm going to go down with my play calling. I'm going to go down with the way that I do things. And it delivered. And it did. Like Bryce Underwood, you and I both agree. He is a very talented player. And at this point, and honestly, it's the way that I felt about South Carolina last offseason. And it didn't happen because of South Carolina felt really good about the room. But still, a place like Michigan should be the prime destination for transfer portal wide receivers. Because if you do not have a wide receiver on that roster that feels like it is a difference maker, you got a tight end, you have a running back that definitely can be a bruiser and can move the chains and put yourself in a position to where 8-4 is possible, but you do not have a wide receiver. He is doing things on his own. And there were times where it looked like he was confident and that he was making the right reads, but it's a disaster situation when you have to be the X factor against a Brent Venables defense in your second career start, in your first road start. And ultimately, that cannibalized and suffocated Bryce Underwood into making multiple mistakes and putting Oklahoma in a position where they could attack, where they could win, and then where they could play their brand of football, positioning-wise, that set up a tone to slow things down. That is where we are with Oklahoma. The best is still ahead for them, in my opinion, too, because I think the run game is going to get there. You're going to get better play, I think, from the wide receivers. Offensive line is going to get more continuous, and you're still going to see this defense be as ferocious as it was last night. And John Mateer is going to be better, and he's going to make more quality plays, and he's going to get more acclimated to running this offense and building that rapport with the receiving corps to where things are going to be more balanced and more relaxed to where he can make a mistake and not feel like he is doing everything by himself. That is what you talk about and what you want to see going into this year. It's a good stepping stone win. A lot has got to be changed. Like if you walked away last night, and I'm not saying you did or people in the comment section did either, but if you walked away last night and said, this version of Oklahoma is good enough to win a national championship, please tell me what you were drinking, and then let me go ahead and take that away from you. And we're going to go ahead and put you to sleep. Let's just get a couple of Z's in, and then we'll come back and we'll have this conversation when you're a bit sober. But when you look at what the baseline is, that version and what could be, you have to feel like that this is a moment that is a massive, massive win. Massive win going into year 2 of the SEC. And it's because you got a defense and you got John Mateer. And I think for a lot of people, Brent Venables and John Mateer kind of shut them up last night. He's good enough to be a power 4 quarterback, and Brent Venables is good enough to be a head coach at the school if he can continue from what he did last night. Big if right now. Big if right now. But if he can continue. I'll end with this, and then I'll let you go because I know I've been rambling. I still truly believe there is a certain brand of mentality that you have to play quarterback at Oklahoma. And it is just something that either you have or you don't. And you can't fake it. And the boosters know what it's like. And the locker room knows what it's like. And the athletic directors knows what it's like. And the fans know what it's like. Jackson Arnold didn't have that it factor, that spark last year. He didn't have that mentality of what you wanted to be able to take it by the horns and go, we're running it this way. You're going to do as I say. And it's something that John Mateer has. And it's something that I think truly has turned an offense that still has questions into something that is sustainable, something that works, and something that is going to build a rapport that is very balanced long-term. That is something to where you needed that last season. And you get this year, and because of now it's in the works, you got to feel really confident about the direction of where you are as a program, especially now knowing who you have as your quarterback.
Yeah, Bear, I think you hit on a lot of good points, obviously. I would say first, I think a loss in this game would have guaranteed more than a win guarantees, if that makes sense. Like from the standpoint of now they just keep getting bigger, right? You got Temple next weekend. You're going to win that game. No big deal. But then you have Auburn come to town. And like that all of a sudden becomes take the pressure and the expectations and the hype that was going into the Michigan game, essentially double it, right? Take it and then double it with Jackson Arnold coming in, SEC opener. You know, they'll only get bigger because, I mean, talking to them down there before the season, talking to them being down there, like there's no question, like making a run to the playoff or at least being in the conversation is the expectation. Now, I'm not saying it's a far-fetched expectation. Look at the way they performed, obviously, last night. But they'll keep getting better. But a loss, I think, would have guaranteed more from a negative standpoint than I think there's still a lot to see with Oklahoma. And I'm very optimistic on them, very high on them. Obviously, I feel better about them leaving. The big question marks I'll have for them moving forward, because it wasn't a perfect performance, obviously, but the defense was suffocating. You did what you had to do. The things I'll be looking at most closely, because I think they're going to be fine on defense. I really do. Like this defense. So Tyler McComas, our good buddy that works for the Ref, and Travis Davidson, I want to shout out him too. But I was talking to Tyler last year coming into the season. And the proclamation he made to me last year, Bear, was he felt like Oklahoma was going to have the best defense on the field in every single game they played. And did they not? I don't know that we really know because the offense was so bad it put them in some horrific positions. Either way, that's not really the point. The point being, I think that might be the case this year. Like, I think you could debate Texas, obviously, as a better defense, but then again, I think it's pretty debatable at this point. I feel better about the defense, even without Stutzman and Bowman, like seeing those guys flying around and what they were doing last night. I think I maybe feel a little bit better about the defense this year than even I did last year. And I think also, too, I feel better about it just because now this football team has balance. Now it's an offense that, like, is not going to put them in such horrific positions. Like, I fully expect the numbers will be better this year for Oklahoma defensively because of that sheer fact alone. So I think they're going to be fine defensively. The two questions, I think, and thing is I'm going to be most following, number one, it is the running game, right? Just the consistency with a Jaden Ott, who last night 4 carries for 9 yards. Like he's kind of been a non-factor at this point. I like the Barnes kid. I like the Blaylock kid. How much are you having to use John Mateer in the running game? Because you're obviously going to use him. I think it'd be crazy not to have 10 run around back there. There's some by design. There's some that obviously he's improvising using his legs. But I agree with a commenter, by the way, earlier. If your quarterback's your leading rusher in the SEC, the odds that he's still standing as your quarterback come season's end are pretty low because he's taking some shots.
Or your Diego Pavia. I mean, like that.
Yeah, or your Diego Pavia. But, like, realistically, you would like to not have to ask him to be the leading rusher. So is it going to be that way? Which, I mean, again, the dude's a baller. I don't think you're a guy you try to rein him in and say, hey, don't be who you are. But ideally, you'd like the rest of the rushing attack to step up, the offensive line continue to take steps forward, which I thought they did. I thought the offensive line was actually really solid. Not perfect, but they were solid in that game last night, better than they were at any point last year, I feel. The other thing I'm continuing to watch for, Bear, is John Mateer, and I think, he's got some of that Diego Pavia in him from the standpoint, when it's good, it's good. Sometimes I think it can get a little erratic. We saw the interception with the high throw against Michigan last night. I think if he's able to take care of the football, make the right decisions, process things, don't do anything stupid, essentially, to lose you the football game. Like, if you're not putting that defense in tough spots, you're going to be in a really good position. So can he play his game and play loose and play free, but also play smart at the same time? And I'm not saying he didn't play smart last night, but I think with a guy like that, who's kind of got that gunslinger in him, when he starts to play some of these better defenses, some of that running around, he's doing whatever, like, can he do that against the Texas defensive front? Heck, can you do it against Auburn? Can you do it against some of the other teams on your schedule? Not saying he can't, but that'll be something I'm watching for. But, I mean, Bear, listen, if you're an Oklahoma fan leaving this game, I don't know why we lost Bear Thompson. I think he's going to jump back in. But I'll say this to the Oklahoma fans. If you are an Oklahoma fan leaving this game, there he is. The Bear is back. The Bear is back. Bear, if you are an Oklahoma fan leaving this game, I think you got to be ecstatic, number one, not just the fact that you won, but the way that you won. And I think let your expectations kind of run wild, man. Like, this is a team, they should be in the college football playoff hunt. This is a team, hey, you want to get to the overreact segment early? Maybe I'll save it too, but is it crazy to say this team could be in Atlanta? I don't think that's that wild. I know the schedule's nuts. Bear, do you realize, by the way, I know we're going to talk AP poll later in this show. Every single SEC team Oklahoma plays is ranked in the top 25. Like, their schedule is outrageous, like flat out outrageous, but still, and that'll change, obviously. But even with that being said, I think there's things you look at last night. You don't want to overreact to one win over a Big Ten team that might be an 8-4. I think that Michigan team is going to be solid. Like, I think it's an 8 or 9 win team in the Big Ten. Do it in SEC play. I agree. It's the best of the best. I understand. But there's a lot of things you draw from last night as positives. I think as an Oklahoma fan, you should be really excited about what you saw.
Let's wait to see what happens in the Auburn game. Let's see what happens when you go. And again, it's disgusting that we have to have this conversation that really Oklahoma is going to travel to the link on Saturday, and they're gonna have to play in.
Oh, they're traveling. I've talked to them.
And
they're going
in NFL Stadium, and we're gonna have fans go out to Philadelphia.
Their fans are pumped to go.
I hope that they at least stay for what is going to be Sunday when the Eagles play. I don't know if a game is there or not, but I hope that they do, and they get to watch Jalen Hurts, and they get to celebrate that he, along with being an Alabama grad, gets to be in that stadium, winning Super Bowls and claiming potential MVP titles down the line. Let's wait to see what happens in the Auburn game, but they could be a 5-0 team going into Red River. I mean, this was the game that you wondered about. You wondered about the Auburn game. Auburn still has its questions. Auburn won. They're now ranked in the top 25, which is good. But Auburn did win. Let's see what they look like moving forward. But it is a good start. I mean, you have got to be beyond pleased, beyond elated on who you have as your quarterback. Because if I think at this point, it truly silenced any critic or doubter that did not believe for 1 second that this was going to be it. Oh, Tyler Collins, thank you. Yeah, Eagles are at KC this week. So you're not even getting to go see Jalen Hurts play in this game. So problem solved. But still, John Mateer was awesome. I think that, again, John Mateer, the way that he plays football, and I will push back a little bit. He does not need to be your leading rusher. I don't worry if he's your leading rusher. I worry if he's your leading rusher by, say, 400 yards. Like, if there is no difference between him and Blaylock or Jaden Knott or Javonte Barnes, and there is a clear 400 and 450 yard separation, that's where you worry. That's where you have your concern. But you don't worry if it's like, maybe 50 or 60 yards apart. You're going to need that guy. But the big selling point for me is that he is a mobile quarterback. So you have to utilize his legs. That is part of what makes him a special player and a Heisman potential finalist. It is. And he did a good enough job last night with 3 touchdowns, over 250 total yards of scrimmage to be right in the hunt for a spot in the Big Apple. I'll tell you what, he is the exact type of quarterback that you need to win there. He is the exact type of quarterback to where you look at how he plays the game. It reminds you, maybe not in play style, but attitude, in the guys who came before him that took down the trophy that was the greatest accolade to a single player in college football.
There's a couple statues outside that stadium. Guys named Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. I'm not saying he's those guys. His playing style, like you said, there's a reason he was compared to Baker in the offseason. Let's see what he does in SEC play, but he's got that kind of swag about him. And again, we know, Bear, in this league, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance. I think they've got that guy. I think they've got that guy in their center at number 10. We'll see how it plays out. But Oklahoma, big 24-13 win, Bear. Anything else you want to add on that? I'll ask you a question before we get off.
Yes.
Who you buying more stock in right now for the remainder of the 2025 season, John Mateer or Arch Manning?
Oh, John Mateer. I was buying stock in John Mateer well before the season. Like,
I thought I was putting you on the spot there. Wasn't even a hard question.
That was easy. That was very, very easy at this point. There's a couple of quarterbacks that I'm buying a lot more stock into. But I do want to answer this question real fast because I am a sicko that loves my Texas football. From Miss Terry Bathwater, I want Cole to tell me how good Texas football is and why SMU and Baylor was a bleep show. Sawyer Robertson is the answer to the latter question. Sawyer Robertson is a psycho demon who just plays football with an unrelentlessly willingness, a pure grit and determination, like he is on drugs and he is trying to get to that very last sip of the rainbow. And he wants to be that dude because he wielded a win, like out of pure sheer voodoo. Neither team has a good defense. Neither team is able to protect their quarterback. But at the end of the day, the fact that you had a better, I think, more efficient passer that runs his offense to a T well, that's what got the win. Texas is a good football team. I have my questions. I have my doubts. We won't know more until, honestly, at this point, depending on what happens with Florida moving forward, which we're going to break down pretty soon, probably Red River will be the next time that we get a good gauge on what Texas is. But they're a good football team. Are they a national championship one? Let's come to find out. Put a pin in it. I'll talk to you on October 11th about that.
So Oklahoma beats Michigan 24-13. By the way, Bear, something we should mention, big win for the SEC after losing to the Big Ten in week 1. Good on you, Boomer Sooner. Bear, you mentioned it. Let's just jump right into it because I got a lot I want to say about this. The South Florida Bulls go into the swamp and beat Billy Napier and the Florida Gators by a final score of 18-16. Cole, I don't even – I'm at a loss for words, admittedly. I'm at a loss. You know, I talked to a good friend of mine this morning that is a diehard Gator fan, was at the game actually, because I wanted to get a gauge for I watched the highlights, but I wanted to get a gauge from him. Hey, man, like what went wrong? What went wrong? How did this happen? Explain that to me. He said everything. Everything went wrong. He said what went wrong? Billy Napier went wrong. It didn't seem there was a single positive that they could point out from this football game. I think you look at the offensive side of the football, obviously, it almost feels as if DJ Lagway has regressed a little bit. I don't know if that's because he didn't participate in spring or, limited availability in fall or the injuries or all the above, or I don't know. There's criticisms of play calling with Billy Napier. There's criticisms of things that we've seen in the past. I used to talk about Florida Bear, especially early last year, stupid football team. They make dumb mistakes in the most critical moments. I don't know if that can be more like summarized or encapsulated, I think is the word I'm looking for. I don't think what defines that more, Bear, than you have USF stopped. You're going to win the game. and Bear, your player spits on the opponent and gets a 15-yard penalty to give them new life. And here's what I was informed of, Bear. This is not the first time this has happened in the Billy Napier era. 2 years ago, they had a player spit on a Florida State player. They were up 12-0 in that game, and that shifts that entire game, and FSU wins the game. Bear, week 2, overreactions. I get it's not an overreaction to say that Billy Napier's time in Gainesville needs to be over. And I'm not saying fire him today. I don't think you gain anything from that. And I will say that after last year, the way they turned it around, he deserves the right to right the ship. And who knows, man? I mean, this team is so hot and cold, so Jekyll and Hyde. They might go beat LSU this weekend. I have no idea. They're that much of a roller coaster. But Bear, with everything on the line in this season, all the hopes, all the dreams, all the aspirations, you just lost to a team from the state of Florida in the swamp, not named FSU or Miami for the first time since 1938 when you lost to Stetson. Like, I get it. And I know, Bear, you're probably going to spend a lot of time talking about South Florida and Byron Brown and Golish. And I get it. I know that they're good.
Because
they're good. I understand. Listen, I get it. They are a good football team. It is inexcusable for the Florida Gators with this roster to lose to the South Florida Bulls, a team and a program that doesn't even remotely have the resources and the backing, the talent, everything that they have. It's inexcusable. And you can nitpick in regards to, like, we can talk about individual player performances and what guys did what. That team looked unprepared. That team looked unfocused. That team looked like it didn't give a darn. And they went out and it showed and they got beat. And it all comes back to Billy Napier. As much as we thought things had changed, the more they have stayed the same here. Billy is who he is, who he is. I think if you're Florida, you have to realistically look yourself in the mirror. And like I said, I think you just give him the rest of the year because I don't think there's a benefit in firing him right now. And because of what happened late last year, listen, but they're in a mindset right now, Bear. I'm talking to my guy today. He's like, you know what the worst case scenario is? He does turn it around and they go 9-3 and they still miss the playoff and he's back next year because a vicious cycle continues over and over and over. Listen, that orange and blue, that gator on the chest, that means something. That's still one of the best programs in college football. That's still a one I think you consider an elite. That's one that I think should expect to be at the top of the sport, just like some other blue bloods out there. And Billy Napier is not the guy to get Florida football back to the mountaintop. He's a great dude. He's got great characteristics about him, but ain't nobody getting paid the money they're getting paid to be a good dude. It's about winning football games. There is enough proof of concept negatively to say, this is not it. This didn't work. It is what it is. Credit South Florida. There is no excuse for losing that football game that they lost. And I don't know where the Gators go from here, man. I really don't. Again, they'll probably bounce back and win some games they shouldn't because it's been a roller coaster like that under Billy Napier. But this vicious cycle has to end at some point. I don't know what more we need to see. It's inexcusable, Bear. I don't care how you want to spin it, how much credit people want to give South Florida. You were a 17.5-point favorite in the swamp, and you lost to USF. Like, losing is one thing. Not protecting your own state. You're getting recruits texted after the game from Golish and company about, hey, man, how'd you like the game? What an embarrassing slap in the face to the pride and the heart and the soul of the Gators. It's fire Billy Napier, Bear. I don't know what at this point Billy could do, because even if they go, the understanding I have from them is they go anything less than 9-3, their brass they're ready to make a move. Either way. Even if you get to 9-3 now, you still know, I think, in the back of your mind, like, you're like, shit, like, damn it. This probably isn't what's best for the long term of the program. And that's unfortunate. So, fire Billy Napier, Bear. That's all. It's South Florida, man. It's South Florida. You can't lose to South Florida in the swamp, man. Well, come on.
You can, because if you're losing to a killer. You're losing to a psycho. You're losing to a madman. And his name is Alex Golish. And he is far and away.
Maybe Florida's next head coach.
He is far and away one of those names that is just deserving of us praising it left and right throughout the halls of Victory Avenue, throughout all of Alumni Hall, throughout all of what is the swamp that, in my opinion, was not the swamp, a dangerous place. It was a freaking puddle. That's what it was on Saturday to this team. It was nowhere to, it was a lily pad. It was a swamp. But this is a coach that has come on in. And not only when he was working alongside Josh Heupel, reinventing an offense that was so dynamic with the quarterback position and with the vertical passing attack that it could go toe-to-toe with anybody. This is a guy that took Nick Saban. This was a guy that took Alabama down to the wire 2 years in a row. This was a guy that made sure that he woke up and built a roster every single offseason because his was stolen from him, because that's the way the transfer portal works. It always goes and takes the kids from the schools in the G5 level and brings them to more prominent places. And he wins. And he's been able to kind of show it the last couple of weeks. And he beats the brakes off of a top 25 team in Boise State. He goes on into the swamp. He beats Florida. They look like the better team. I mean, like I went back and I watched the game this morning because I had to make sure that I was not fixated on certain things that were just like kind of thrown out there. They looked like the better team. Byron Brown was a better quarterback. Never thought those words would ever leave my mouth in the same sense of DJ Lagway because of how much I hyped him up. Byron Brown was a better quarterback. They were. And honestly, take off the Bulls logo. Take off the green and the gold colors. And let's just, for all fun intents and purposes, let's throw on the maize and blue, Michigan. And they have a win over Florida and they have a win over Boise State. Chris, that is a top 5 team in college football right now. That is a team that has shown you they are here to play. They are here to dominate. And if you are Miami, you're kind of shaking in your boots a little bit to go, we have got to be more prepared. We have got to go through this entire week that we are not going to fall victim to this team that is Michigan. It's not Michigan. It's USF. And you know what? How dare us as college football fans not give them the credit where they deserve? Well, I am. Because of that coach, the one that we're talking about, that is the coach who needs to be hired by every other school in all of college football if his name is not John Summerall down in Tulane. Those two, those should be at the top of your list. And if they're not, I'm sorry, your athletic director needs to be fired. You as a college football fan need to go in to do some research and figure out what are some things that they're going to have to figure out. That is what you want if you are building a team. But it's not even enough for me because it's about Florida. USF had a great game plan. They looked like the more physically imposing team. They won in the trenches. They were bullying Florida's defensive line off the scrimmage. They were doing everything that you want to see from a group of 5 school that wants to make noise and be a threat to go to the college football playoff. But none of that should matter because it's Florida. This is not a Florida roster that doesn't have good players and doesn't have solid overall prospects that are going to find their way to the NFL this time next year. This isn't a Florida team that doesn't have weapons that would be starting in other schools around the Power 4 level. This isn't a Florida team that doesn't have a good running back room and doesn't have a good quarterback system. This is a Florida team that on paper is good enough to be in the hunt for the college football playoff. And they just look like they didn't care. They simply didn't. And I don't want to hear the excuse. I don't want to hear this because it's nowhere near true. It was a look-ahead game because of look at who we got going up. We got LSU. We got Miami. We got Texas. We can just coast in this game. You are Florida that has not been able to come back to the level of consistency since 2010 when Urban Meyer decided to hightail it on out of there because of the sanctions that were coming on down. You had a coach that was getting you close to the finish line. His name was Dan Mullen. He didn't like to recruit. And he said it out loud and you said, nope, not good enough. We're going to fire you. That was the closest you got back to the level of the identity that we talk about Florida. And it wasn't good enough. And you're still making the same mistakes. And you still are going through the motions. And you still are putting out a product that doesn't resemble what Florida football is supposed to be, which is the most infuriating part of all of this, because if you figured it's year 1, okay, we're going to figure things out. We got to make sure that we get our culture there. It's year 4. This is your culture. This is who you are. This is what your program is, and it's not changing. My fear at this point, my fear right now is that there is a part of me that believes Florida can turn the corner. And there's another part of me that says Florida actually did everything possible to get ready for this game. Florida actually walked out of that press conference. Billy Napier walked into his office and said, I did what I could. I game planned. I thought practice went really well. I pushed them to the brink. I made sure that they were absolutely mentally and physically prepared for the game, and we still lost. At that point, there's no hope. That's on you as a coaching staff. And we're getting very close to that. In fact, we are right on the brink of that line actually breaking and it becoming the reality of what is Florida football right now. It is. And it's horrifying because that should not be the case in year 4, especially with the way that you're going out and recruiting, the way that you've been able to land certain transfer portal players, the way that we consistently talk about you in the offseason. And you know what? Shame on us. Shame on me. I would pour one out, but I have wood floors and I don't want to make a mess and have to clean up later. To me and all of the people that decided to anoint Florida before they had proven anything, because of, you know what? It was definitely out of context. It was horrendous for us to do when they didn't belong in that top 15, but they didn't look like the physical team. But you know what the worst part is? That you could probably live with it if you're a Florida fan. You can live with not hitting the 17.5 points. You could live with certainly barely surviving against a USF squad that did put on a performance to remember against a Boise State team that went to the college football playoff last year if you won the game. But what happened again? The mistakes, the penalties, and the disrespectful, unaltered, and more importantly, undisciplined act that was this Florida team. For the last 2 years before this, once again, reared its ugly face around and led to perfect field position for a moment that Alex Golesh is never going to forget. A moment his family is never going to forget. And a moment that South Florida is going to remember as a time where they realized college football playoff hopes are absolutely alive. I don't know if Billy's going to get fired. I'm not going to act like that he is. I'm not going to act like that I have any inside information. I'm not going to act like that things could be changed, because they can. Because we overreacted like this last season with Texas A&M. And we overreacted like this after the Miami game. The problem is that I don't know how much more fans just want to keep buying into this. I don't. And I do think that there's a part of me that believes that they already have their next head coach in line. It's not Lane Kiffin. So anybody out there that's saying Lane Kiffin's staying in Ole Miss, he's going to be there. He's going to love it. And he is going to be very content running the show in Oxford for probably the next 7 or 8 years. He's not leaving. But just for the fact that Florida needs to get back to the level of what we knew, I don't think it's going to get there with Billy. And I am probably, and people in the comment section have called me out for it many a time. And I need to be better about this. I am probably the most optimistic, glass half full type of person, at least out of the two of us. I try to think out things. I try not to act like that things are going to be better. I try not to act like that, it's the end of all be all. I can't do this with this one because it's year 4. It's not year 1 and you're setting a standard. It's not year 2. It's not we're waiting for the quarterback to get here. It's not, we're talking about, getting a new offensive line coach in here. Oh, we fired our defense coordinator. You've done all those things. And it's still back to square one mistakes. This is the end. I can't defend him anymore. This one lost me because it's the attitude and it's the way that you carry yourself. Credit where credit's due. Alex Golesh and the USF. Great win. Great performance. But it's not Alabama versus Florida State, where Florida State hung literally 70 points against a feeder school and said, oh, look at that. They may actually be a really good team. They may actually be really, really promising this year. It's you guys didn't show up and you never even try to care. And that's an attitude and a reflection of the coaching staff.
I mean, I think if you're looking for any positive as a Florida fan, because I know they are down and out. I mean, it is like a morgue, what I've been told down there in Gainesville. And Dude, I even feel for the players. Like, you got to walk around campus with the embarrassment that we lost to South Florida. Like, they're going to be embarrassed all week. The good news is the team will not quit on Billy Napier.
Yeah.
We saw it last year. They will not quit. Like, I fully expect. I don't think this thing is just going to torpedo down into oblivion. I do think. I do want to bet you, Bear. They got LSU on the road next week. I guess it's back-to-back road games, actually. LSU and then Miami. I'd be willing to bet you they win one of those two. I'd be willing to bet you one of those two they win. And then you come home for the Texas game and, who knows? All bets are off. What do we know about Arch in Texas at that point? But they won't quit on him. What does that mean? I don't know. But I agree with you. I think this one tells you all you kind of need to know about the Billy Napier era.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're in year 4. Like, you have DJ Lagway. This is your football team. The stench of the previous regime is gone. It's been gone for quite a while, and you just blew it. Like, give all the credit in the world to South Florida, but you blew it. So the Billy Napier era needs to end. I'm not saying right now. I'm not saying fire him Monday. I'm sure Florida fans wouldn't mind that, but you give him to the end of the season, barring some miracle turnaround and making the playoff, I think you go a different direction. Because you're right. I just don't think Florida is going to get to – not only do I think they're not going to sniff the top, I don't think they're going to get back to being an elite level program on a yearly basis like I know their expectations are with Billy Napier leading the way. I don't see it. I don't believe that anymore. So
I'll definitely tell you what this feels a lot like to me. Do you remember Neil Brown at West Virginia 2023?
Yeah.
Things like really turned the corner after a slow start. And it was because of, you had a quarterback that was a lightning rod. You were able to get to 9+ wins because if you won your bowl game, and it felt like that you were trending in the right direction. With Garrett Green as your starter, you had a good running back tandem, and you had some pieces that you brought in via the portal and a good recruiting class that was like, this is a step in a direction to where we know that this was a building block for the long term. And it proceeded to belly up on itself, capsize. You ended up benching Garrett Green as your starting quarterback, and they said, you know what? We waited one extra year. It was probably best for us to fire you at that point. That was it. Like honestly, that is how it feels right now, is that you knew that this was probably already dead in the water. You knew that this marriage was not going to work, but it's like you went away on a vacation and you went to Italy for 2 weeks and you fell back in love and you're like, we're going to try to salvage this. And here we are a year and a half later and you're signing the papers. Like that's what it feels like at this point. And unfortunately, it's not that I don't think Billy is a good coach, because there's people that are trashing Billy today and saying that he can't get the job done. I am glass half full. Thank you. Auburn had a very good game, and actually they did. They had a very terrible game, and we can talk about that later. Anyways, my point being that you look at this game as in like, I lost my train of thought. Now I remember it. No, I don't. I threw myself off. Bottom line is that Billy Napier at this point, you know who you are. And unfortunately, it's not enough. It isn't. Oh, now I remember. Billy Napier, very solid coach. People out there that are talking right now saying that he is a terrible, terrible coach. No, he's not meant for Florida. He's not meant to be a Florida. The G5 Billy jokes, they can laugh all you want, but also he goes back to, say, Louisiana. He goes down to Georgia Southern, to school like that. He wins the Sun Belt every other year. Like, that's it. Like, you could see that happen. But there is a certain brain of what you need to be back at Florida to gain that sustainability. And again, it's year 4. You're making mistakes that first-year coaches make. You're making mistakes that first-year coordinators should be fired for. And you're just accepting it. That's it.
Bear, good to know that you can be ruffled. Your feathers can be ruffled. You can be our guy Mike McKinney in the comments can get under the Bear's
He threw me off. He did. Mike knows,
fluster. You flustered the Bear. Congratulations.
Mike knows how to make the funny bone tickle.
Yeah, indeed. Anyways, Gators fall to South Florida 18-16. We all feel pretty confident what needs to happen. Bear, a lot of different directions we can go here for this next game. I want to go to Stark Vegas.
Let's go Starkville.
Let's go to Stark Vegas. Hey, Bear, let's go to Stark Vegas and talk about Jeff Lebby, huh? Let's talk about Jeff Lebby, Bear. You weren't high on Jeff Lebby.
No, I wasn't.
You weren't glass half full on Jeff Lebby.
I was not.
Hey, Jeff Lebby just went out and said, hey, hold my beer, because I'm going to go out and beat a team that was in the college football playoff a season ago. Hey, Bear, NC Philly, and everybody else, we're going to do it with our defense. How about our defense holding Sam Levitt to 82 yards passing and picking him off twice? Granted, they gave up 251 yards rushing, but that's beside the point. 82 yards passing for Sam Levitt. Blake Shapen hitting a couple big-time shots down the field. Brendan Thompson, how about that kid? The game-winning score, 2 touchdowns for him on the day. It was the passing game for Mississippi State. It was the defense. It was the cowbells. It was the all-black uniforms. And Bear, that, my friend, was the Cathedral of Chaos.
Yes, it was.
That was the Cathedral of Chaos. We could talk about this one. I am more so happy for the folks down in Starkville. It finally broke for the positive for them. Signature win, obviously, of Jeff Lebby's early career in Starkville. This team is much better. Yeah. Much better than they were a season ago. Does that mean they're going to go 8-4 or anything crazy? No, not necessarily, but it's just good to see them have life after what was all in all, essentially disaster year one of his tenure. Hell of a game. One of us should have been ballsy enough to take the upset. We understand why we didn't, but I look back and I'm like, one of us should have done it. Mississippi State makes us eat our words. And again, the fact that they do it with defense. You and I both took the over. Yeah. Didn't even come close because of that defense. Wildly impressed with Lebby and the boys, man.
I'll be completely honest. And Chris knows this because I text him whenever it happens. So he's there for the live events. I hate when I'm wrong. I would rather be slightly right than entirely wrong. Like, that is just something that bothers me because it does make me feel like that I'm not good enough at my job or I'm not seeing something that people are watching where I'm not agreeing with them. I have never been happier to be wrong about a prediction than I was on Saturday night watching as Brendan Thompson cross the goal line. I wasn't, because of that fan base, that ravenous, toxic, hospitable, zombified fan base that cascades itself in maroon and white and rings those cowbells into the Mississippi night sky, have earned that win. And they didn't just earn that win, they earned it with flair. And they earned it in so many ways that we didn't give credit to. Like, we could talk about what this running game has been. The running game is supposed to be one of the backbones of what is a Jeff Lebby offense. And it was supposed to be a reason why you could believe that this team was certainly trending in the right direction this year after what they did against Southern Miss. They didn't lead the game in rushing yards. They were outgained 251-66. They got 2.2 yards of play on the ground. This came down to 2 main elements. A defense that was awesome. A defense that truly showed up and shut me up and shut you up. And a healthy Blake Shapen changes things. Holy crap. Blake Shapen. I remember watching him at Baylor when he played in the Big 12 championship. And he set the Big 12 record for the most completions in a row. And he was poised and he was direct. And the way that he just watched that football fling out his fingertips and just hit receivers in stride, you knew there was something special there. You knew there was something that could be different. And then he also had a cannon. And last season, he was dealing with something at the very beginning of the year. He gets hurt. Kind of Mississippi State season goes off the rails. Healthy. Dude showed off that he has a deep ball. All 3 touchdowns over 40 yards downfield, including the late one to Brendan Thompson, who was a perfect addition for this offense because if he was recruited by Jeff Lebby to go to Oklahoma. I don't like being wrong. I don't. And you know what? Credit where credit's due. Kenny Dillingham made a lot of changes at halftime and said, we are not throwing the football today. We are not going to have another interception. If we're going to lose this game, we're going to lose because we're going to beat them. They're going to beat us by stopping the run, and we're going to be forced to get it through the air. And they didn't. They had 200 likes. Like, that's ridiculous. It's absolutely insanity that they were able to do that. And credit where credit's due. You heard him at the end of the press conference saying, we are literally 50 seconds away from talking about this being one of the greatest comebacks in Arizona State football history. But it's the fact that you have that guy at quarterback. You have a receiver that is ready to get on up. One thing that we talked about with Brendan Thompson and Blake Shapen when we were at SEC Media Days is that they have a good relationship. They were very much on the same page and wavelength when they were able to get to campus. They already had a good intellect of the offense. And they got a defense that's going to bail them out of trouble. I don't know where to put this team. Because of, again, Part of me also is going to say to myself, and it's not an insult to Mississippi State because a win's a win. You're going to take that. You're going to take a top 15 win every single day and twice on Saturdays. But a part of me thinks that maybe just slightly we overrated Arizona State going into the year. And maybe they end up going like 8-4, 7-5. Leavitt has been awful in his first 2 games. The offensive line has been terrible. So like there's things that you can definitely work on. You may end up being 4-8. But by golly, is this a step in the right direction if you are Jeff Lebby? It's a sheer vote of confidence that you have the right offensive identity, you have a foundation, and your plan's working. Because last season, you went into Tempe, Arizona, and you lost by less than a score. This season, you're able to jump on up, you bend, but you don't break. You get your quarterback to deliver the shot downfield, and there is a school filled of engineers, the fastest I have ever seen a goalpost come down and be carried outside of the stadium. They deserve that win. They earned that win. And that fan base, I am very proud to say I was wrong. I am okay with being wrong. And I should have had the balls to do what you guys did and say, we are winning this game and you're going to like it. Because that fan base earned it.
If you're going to be wrong at the expense of a great moment for our folks down in Starkville. You know, yeah. I mean, really, truly, that's a trade we'll all sign up for. Bear, Mississippi State, barring which college football in 2025, and I think for the foreseeable future is going to be pure chaos. So barring pure chaos, you've got Alcorn State and NIU your next 2 weeks. Bear, this Mississippi State team more than likely is going to be 4-0 with the Tennessee Vols coming to town to Davis Wade.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say. I'm not going to go that
far. Hey, listen, I'll say this might be a good sign for Tennessee, Bear, because I said that they were going to get somebody. Maybe Arizona State was that somebody, and it won't be Rocky Top. Got a couple weeks for that. I'm just saying, though, hey, vibes are high right now. You're only going to continue to build momentum. You're going to set yourself up 4-0. Can we just win 2 conference games? Just 2. That's all we need to go bowling. You'll have an opportunity, but we'll see.
They will win 1 conference game this year, guaranteed. If that's the version of the defense that we saw on Saturday.
We said all they needed was a defense. Just give them a chance. They don't have to be elite. Just don't be terrible, you know? So, yeah, they did their job. That was awesome to see. Again, congrats to Jeff Lebby and the boys. That place was rocking. Yeah, Starkville was – that scene just looked incredible. The rushing the field, the tearing down the goalposts. I'm happy I was in Norman, Bear, but selfishly, I do hate I missed out on a field storming. I got to be totally honest with you.
Beautiful matchup, beautiful day. And we have a beautiful 1,100 people watching this stream right now. So I'm just going to ask a quick little favor. If you haven't already, like the video, hit the ring notification, subscribe to the channel. Literally takes 5 seconds. We're not asking you to sign on up to join us for happy hours on Fridays. We're not asking you to go ahead and watch every single preview that we do. We're asking you just to go ahead and like this video because if it says that we're doing a good job, gives us more content, it gets more eyeballs out here, and it helps us grow the channel because we are on the race to 25,000 subscribers. We would like to get there, if possible, by the time the kickoff happens where the SEC Unfiltered Tour is going next week. And I will allow Chris Phillips to announce that whenever he sees fit. But if we can get 25,000, the best way to do so is by liking the video, hitting the ring notification, and subscribing to the channel. Literally takes 5 seconds. There's like 35 likes. There's over 1,100 people watching. Takes 5 seconds. Not going to ask you for much more.
No, run it up. We appreciate you guys. And we'll talk more about that end of show, Bear, where we going next. Because right now, what I want to talk about is Bobby Yaga. Bobby Yaga. Bobby Yaga.
He came, he conquered it. He made me wrong.
God. Not only did Bobby Yaga show up and show out, Bear, Vandy walked into their trap and took over their trap with belt to ass over the Virginia Tech Hokies by a final score of 44-20. I had egg on my face for 2 reasons in this game, Bear. Number one, I picked Vatek. Nice pick. Other one, I said the under was a lock. Vandy essentially hit the over-under by themselves. And it was on the backs, of course, of Diego Pavia, but also that running game as well. 262 yards of rushing for the Commodores, Bear. That defense overwhelmed Kyron Drones all night. How about the halftime adjustments? How about that? How about the resiliency of Clark Lee's Vanderbilt program? You're down early in this football game, obviously. You're able to come back. Hey, by the way, how about the SEC getting one on the ACC? In their crib, by the way. Vandy, come into your crib, take over your trap. I was wrong, Bear. I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted Diego Pavia. I shouldn't have doubted Baba Yaga. I shouldn't have doubted the warrior that he is to inspire his football team, lead his football team. Clark Lee and company, I'm sorry. To my boys at the Door Report, I'm sorry. My Lot 2 folks, I apologize. I know I've got to build back some goodwill with y'all before we eventually, I say make the trip. I literally live here before we have our Nashville SEC Unfiltered Tour weekend, because I will shed many tears, not just a single tear, if I go to a Vandy game, but am not welcome back into Lot 2 because of my doubts of the Doors. So I'll do whatever I have to do to get back in the good graces, because I was wrong. Vandy's for real. Diego Pavia might win the Heisman. How much further you want me to go with this? Anyways, huge win. Huge win, man, to go on the road at night. And I think it was so impressive, Bear, to get down, to come back. Listen, you can say whatever you want about Diego Pavia. He's not a perfect player. There really aren't any out there, but he's not a perfect player. He had a pass early in the game, right, that he shouldn't have thrown that football. He just threw that up for grabs, and it gets picked off, and they had the offensive holding, obviously did not matter, but that ball gets picked off. But, like, you live by the sword, die by the sword with him. It's that type of stuff. And I love what they do offensively with the motion and the eye candy, and it confuses you defensively. You have that tight end wheel route that Diego Pavia just wide open. But that's because of the confusion and the pre-snap movement and some different stuff they do. And obviously, again, I think you've got guys that step up, man. The Trey Richardson kid at wide receiver, I was like, you might have something with this dog. You might have something with this kid. I mean, Junior Sherrill had a couple of nice catches. You know, Eli Stowers is him, obviously. We know that. At the running back position, Cedric Alexander, 10 for 73. How about the what is it, McKeelan Young? I don't know. Mac Young, I'm just going to say. Double deuce.
Macklin Young.
8 for 95 for a touchdown. Some playmakers are stepping up around Diego Pavia. Bear, this team might be better than last year's. It might. It really might. And because now Vandy's got like the swag of like, we know we can. We hoped we could win last year. We know we can win now. This team is not lacking any sort of confidence. Starts with their quarterback, and I think it starts with their head coach.
It starts with
Clark Lee and his belief in the Vanderbilt football program and what they can be, not what they've always been. We know it takes a special type of person to go into Nashville, go into Vanderbilt, and win and have that type of belief. You got to be a little bit delusional. And people laughed and people mocked Vandy all offseason because they're saying this crazy stuff. And I think they were missing the point that this is a group that doesn't matter what size their stadium is or their academic standards and the way it presents challenges for them in recruiting or the lack of history. They have a delusional belief that they can go out there and do something that hasn't been accomplished there, that people aren't accustomed to them accomplishing, that people, again, they lack, they mock, they scoff, and maybe they don't reach those goals, Bear, but, and as corny as it sounds, but you have to believe it can happen before it can even remotely happen, right? Like, you have to have that delusional level of belief, the confidence just oozing out of them. Diego Pavia, I'm sorry, I doubted you. I was severely wrong.
You were severely wrong, and a lot of people were severely wrong. So I won't hold you to it. You already have to deal with the people out in Lot 2. They've invited me as a VIP guest. I'm getting.
You fly to Nashville. We'll give you.
I'm getting free beverage service. I get to go.
We'll give you the King's treatment.
I get to go on the field and I get to hang out with Diego. You know, we've discussed things. Let me just remind people on what happened out in Blacksburg, Virginia, because we got to halftime. We got to a point where Virginia Tech was leading 20-10. And Diego Pavia and company decided to outscore Virginia Tech 34-0. They had 321 more yards, not total yards, more yards than Virginia Tech in the second half. They were 80% on third down conversions. They were phenomenal when it came to explosive plays. They had 7 runs of over 15 yards. They had fewer turnovers. They won the time of possession. They had more first downs. They were more efficient on fourth down. They finished with 490 total yards of offense compared to 248. And they kept Kyron Drone at bay. They did everything that you wanted to see from a team that had to march on in and truly get tested, because if we heard all offseason, hey, people are going to get Vanderbilt at the right time, because they're not going to be sleeping on Vanderbilt anymore. They're going to give Vanderbilt its best punch. And you know what Vanderbilt said this offseason that I never heard from anybody? Didn't hear from you. I didn't hear from me. I didn't hear from our sweet friend Dave Shoemate, from any other content creator out there. Yeah, they're going to give Vanderbilt its best punch, and Vanderbilt's going to punch back. And Vanderbilt's going to show on up to the fight, and they're going to have the brass knuckles, and they're going to say, try me. Because that's what we have seen from Vanderbilt in 2 games. They have a quarterback that plays to an unrelentlessly, ungodly fear, unknown sphere that will allow him to keep his team in every single game. The defense is as good as advertised. The wide receiver room does feel more cohesive. They have an offensive line that feels like there are very few holes. They can run the football. They can win the time of possession. They can force turnovers. They can pressure quarterbacks into making mistakes. They certainly can live to put a quarterback in 3rd and long situations where you make an offense one-dimensional. They do all the little things right. And the reason why everything starts with Clark Lee, I don't know if you saw this post, but Chris, as somebody who has been around locker rooms before, and has certainly been around team locker rooms to see what happens after a game, did you see what Virginia Tech posted on Sunday morning? How thankful they were that Vanderbilt left the visiting locker room clean as a whistle for the equipment staff to come on in there and really not have to do much. Chris, that's psycho vibes. Like, there are people out there that don't do that level of cleaning after a game. My God, that is the type of coach that you have. That is the type of quarterback you have, that they are truly, beyond belief, a team that literally lives by the minute details in their livelihood. And that's scary. I'm excited for this week against Columbia, South Carolina. I'm excited to see what happens between the Gamecocks and the Commodores. There's a lot at stake. There is. But you got to feel really confident right now if you are Vanderbilt. You do. You have to feel very good about where you are. And I can say this now, and I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, because I know that if we get this clipped, they will come for me, and I'm okay with it. Virginia Tech, what the hell happened to you? You used to be a program of pride. You used to be a program of dominance. You used to have a care that was all about a standard. You had expectations. You had grit. You had determination. You had sheer wit and turns and sight on believing that things were meant to go a certain way. And then you lost Beamer. And ever since, you haven't been able to get back to that level. And it's a shame as a college football fan, because if I want to see Virginia Tech be a brand of football that carries itself with that dominance, that carries itself with that consistency, that actually competes for something other than a trip to the Liberty Bowl every other year, it ain't happening with Brent Pry. Thank God that Mike Gundy exists. And thank God that Billy Napier exists. Because if those 2 coaches were sitting at home on Saturday afternoon, or better yet, on a television screen talking about the games, Brent Pry would be the coach on the hottest seat in college football. Because those 2 coaches disappointed. And you got a freebie for it. But I'm not taking you off the hook. You knew what you signed up for. You knew you had to make changes. And now you're sitting at 0-2 and Old Dominion's coming to town. I can't wait to see what happens in Blacksburg next week.
Boy, they lose to Old Dominion.
I mean,
he shouldn't make it to Monday.
You don't make it to Monday.
No,
you don't.
I think
and
that's
honestly, I saw this earlier, and this is the comparison. Somebody said that Florida was in its Nebraska period. No, Virginia Tech is in its Nebraska period. David Speaks 100% is right.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Bear, I mean, what's crazy about this game, before we move off of it, Vandy was penalized more, 11-3. They had 2 turnovers to Virginia Tech's 1. and they still won the game by 24 points. 490 to 248 total yards for Vandy to Virginia. I mean, they just dominated. They dominated. And so you're right. You're right. And we'll talk about this game either tomorrow or Tuesday. But that's kind of what makes that South Carolina Vanderbilt game so intriguing. They both have the common opponent. And, South Carolina kind of struggled a little bit with Virginia Tech. And Vandy did what they did. I mean, it's not an A plus B equals C conversation. We know college football doesn't work that way. But, yeah, it's going to be a fascinating matchup as Vandy looks to snap a streak against the Gamecocks. They haven't beaten them in like 20 years. South Carolina obviously will look to protect the home field and extend the streak. But congrats to Clark Lee, Baba Yaga. My doubt was well documented, and I'm going to have to take some medicine here because I need to get back to Lot 2 and be welcome to party with my fellow Doors. So my fellow Nashvillians. I don't know what we're called. I have no idea.
I don't know what you're calling. Nashville.
Nashvillians sounds cool, though.
Sounds like a 1980s supervillain club.
Yeah, put up the bat
like
signal.
A biker bar.
Bear, let's go to Columbia, Missouri. Border War. Wacky football game.
I got a bone to pick with you. I got a bone to pick with you.
Mizzou wins.
What was that tweet in the first quarter?
Oh, I was like, Mizzou stinks.
I know.
It was 21-6.
I know, but
what is happening?
It is a rivalry, Christopher.
Listen, it was a reverse jinx that worked out well. I'll say that.
It is a beautiful rivalry. It is what makes this rivalry.
Listen, I had a couple too many Oklahoma people get in my ear, so that's what happened. That's what they believe it or not. They don't think very highly of Mizzou down there in Norman. So
really?
No, I was sitting there. It was 21-6. It's like maybe. I think what I actually said was so maybe Missouri actually stinks. Maybe. I just said maybe.
So what's funny is if you turned off the game at that point, like some of my friends did, because they did, and it was really funny to hear them talk about it. The score was 34-10 the rest of the game. If you turn it off at 21-6, it was 34-10. Mizzou outgained Kansas 356 to 197. They had a conversion rate of 80% on third down. They outrushed them single-handedly in the fourth quarter. They made the offense obsolete and one-dimensional. And Bo Pabula looked like the dude. And by the way, I have to address this now because if somebody brought this up in the comment section, R's are hard for me to roll. I know his name is Bo Pribula, but when I go really fast or when my voice is talking and it's not and my voice isn't cracking, I say Bo Pribula. So it sounds like Pibula, but I know it's Pribula. So Pribula looked awesome. And this was a game that had an instant classic to it. And I stand on this, Chris. I beg college football, if we're going to get new realignment, bring back the border war. That's all I'm asking for this upcoming college football season. Give me the border war long term.
This game delivered, man. It absolutely delivered. The offense, like you said, that was the thing that jumped out, was fantastic. Bo Pribula, 30 for 39, 334, 3 tutties, no picks. How about Jamal Roberts leading the way, rushing 11 yards per carry for him? They ran for 261 as a team. Kevin Coleman on the outside, 126 yards receiver. Brett Norfleet had 7 catches for 76, 2 tutties for him. I mean, a lot of, 3, 6, I believe 9 different guys caught a pass in this game. So it was a ton of different guys making contributions. The defense did just enough, held on, obviously, to preserve the win. What do we make of Missouri here, Bear? I mean, that offensive explosion's got to give you a lot of encouragement about what I think Mizzou, what they can be. I mean, you and I were both pretty high on them, but sitting at kind of that 8-4, 9-3-ish range. The schedule's pretty conducive to a big year, but if we're getting this level of quarterback play and this running game, I'm feeling pretty good about MIZ.
Their schedule is so beneficial. And again, I stand on this because of the way that things just benefited them. Eli Drinkwitz, if somehow you make it to the college football playoff, you go to Atlanta, you find the director of schedule, and you give him a fat smooch on the mouth because if he benefited and gave you a blessing to build your team. They have 6 straight home games. They do not leave the state of Missouri until October 18th. They travel to Fayetteville, Nashville, Auburn,
and Auburn.
and Norman. I would say guarantee you can win at least 3 of those games, and potentially a 4th if Bo Pribula does live up to expectations. The way that he just fits with this offense and the way that we saw him kind of turn, especially in the second half, not just with his legs, but his ability to make second chance opportunities behind the line of scrimmage, connect with wide receivers, and really step on up into his throws. It was a sign of comfort. Like, I expected him to get there. I expected him to get there by the South Carolina game. I expected him to get there going into week 6 when you faced off against Alabama. And he's already there. And the thing that you have to look for at this point is the offense is going to be your backbone. Defensively, there were some faults. You were down 21-6. Now, again, one of those touchdowns came on a really bad formation by the offensive line. It felt like that Eli Drinkwitz probably should have called a timeout, and instead they just rushed the throw. It led to a fumble, scoop and score down the other way. So it's like there's things that you have to fix. I think you can get there. That's what a 6-game homestand does for you when you have a lot of new. You don't have to worry about playing in a hostile environment on the road. You don't have to worry about checkdowns or calls or execution. You get to have the home crowd in your background to know that, hey, we are going to benefit off of this because we're not worried about outside circumstances. And it's going to allow you to build that dynamics and those relationships. I think the offensive line got better throughout the game, just like it did against Central Arkansas. I think the defense, I mean, you look at what you have with Dalen Carnell to get that big-time pick against Jalen Daniels just to close things out. Massive, massive for you. The run defense was awesome. I mean, they couldn't run the football to save their life.
They had 19 carries for 28 yards.
I say it was like 0.2 yards.
Yeah,
like
1.5 yards a carry. I mean, Bear, if you just look at the stats of this game, I'd say Mizzou won by 30.
Yeah.
595 to 226 total yards in this game in favor of Missouri. 40 minutes and 27 seconds for Mizzou compared to 19 minutes and 33 seconds for Kansas time of possession. I mean, it really wasn't a competitive game when you look at the statistics. And like you said, down 21-6, the way Missouri dominated this football game from that point should probably be the big takeaway here.
Yeah. To me, the other thing is just also, let's see what they do against a more, I would say, balanced quality opponent. South Carolina is a good test. You got to go travel to Vanderbilt. That's a good test. Let's see what you do when you face off against Alabama. But again, 10-2 gets you in the playoffs. So you lose 2 of those games. Let's just say that it's, I don't know, Auburn and Alabama. But you beat South Carolina. You beat Vanderbilt. 10-2 gets you in the playoff. It happened last year for Tennessee. It happened last year for Georgia. It happened last year for Texas at 10-2. I mean at 11-2. So like again, it's 10 wins. You get 10, you're in. There's pieces there. The thing that I also like is that they have 2 running backs that you can trust on any given day. Ahmad Hardy, let's not sleep on him. He had over 100 rushing yards. He had 3 runs of over 15 yards downfield. Physical runner also between the sticks. Had a good carry. Brett Norfleet is a cheat code inside the red zone at 6'7". 2 gotta have touchdowns delivered. Kevin Coleman stepping on up. Looks the part. Definitely looks the part of exactly what you want as a quarterback. So there's so much to like about where Mizzou is right now. And this win is a good win because I think that Kansas is a good team. Like, Kansas to me is going to be in the hunt for the Big 12 title. I like where their offense is. I like that their defense was able to make some critical mistakes early on and kind of set the tone. It's a good thing that you got this win, and it's the way that you execute this win. Make sure you carry that 2 weeks from now when you face off against South Carolina. Make sure you carry that 4 weeks from now when you got to go on your first road test. You do that, you're doing a good service for where this team is trending in the right direction.
Yeah, things to clean up for sure. But again, I think the way they resurged and came back and, really, like I said, dominated that football game from when they were down early. That's the big takeaway. Bo Pribula, the way he played, the offense as a whole, the running game, everything, the way it was clicking. Like you said, clean some things up, but a lot of encouraging signs. And the schedule works out well for you also. Bear, let's go to the one SEC on SEC game we had. Ole Miss goes into Lexington and beats Kentucky 30-23. It wasn't the blowout that we thought it was going to be, the revenge factor. So I think Kentucky kind of proved us wrong a little bit. And I'll tell you this, Bear. going back and watching that game, I got to tip my cap to the Cats. Just if for nothing else than the reckless abandon they played with. Like, that was a team that came out, the intensity level, the energy level, the effort they gave alone. Because we talked about all offseason, where's the juice with this program? Where's the spark? They played like they had it. Like, I give them a lot of credit in this football game. Seth McGowan was playing like a dude possessed out there for Kentucky. 15 for 93, 2 touchdowns for him. I thought Calzada actually did some nice things. Bears' favorite player in the SEC. I thought he did some nice things here and there. I thought he put some touch on a couple passes. Not something we're used to seeing with him, right? He's got one pitch. I thought he was able to put a touch on a couple passes. Like, I was impressed, if nothing else. And I mean, I know you say no moral victories, but and I get it, whatever. But I do want to compliment Kentucky for that, for playing with that. That looked like a team to me. I picked them in the preseason to go defeated in conference play. They will get somebody if they're bringing that level of energy, of spark, of tenacity every single week. Obviously, kind of a nightmarish start if you're Ole Miss Bear. Austin Simmons just looked like a young quarterback early on. Also was facing some pressure, maybe forced some things a little bit, those 2 interceptions, but I thought he did a good job of settling in. Kawan Lacey looks like a real dude at the running back position. I love the way he plays the game. You've got Logan Diggs back there. He didn't do anything in this football game, but they used the rushing ability of an Austin Simmons as well. Harrison Wallace at wide receiver looks really, really good. But there, again, at the end of the day, it wasn't pretty, but Lane Kiffin and company, there's no such thing as a bad road win in the SEC, even if it's against a team in Kentucky that I know you and I aren't really high on. You rushed for 222 yards in this football game. Some big-time moments in this game. Ole Miss, though, able to find a way to get the dub.
If you would have told me that Kentucky, 1 time of possession, 1 turnover battle, was better on third down execution, had more first downs, I would have said they won this football game. And if you also told me that they were able to hold Ole Miss to 30 points, again, I feel like that you had a good enough performance, because you did. You're just missing something offensively. And that's kind of where you're at right now when it comes to Kentucky. And I don't know if it's the play design. I don't know if it's the quarterback position. I don't know if it's the offensive line. I don't know what the issue is, but you got to give credit where credit's due. Defensively, they're there. They made plays. They got pressure on a young quarterback in his first start early on in the game. They made sure that he felt rattled. They made sure that they were able to put him into a position where he felt rushed and flustered, and it led to turnovers. And by the way, those turnovers led to points. So you did the little things right that you wanted to when it comes to a good defense. It's just the positioning of overall players. Like, the way that I view this at this point is it was a very solid game plan by Kentucky, but sometimes you just got to say to yourself, they have better dudes, because that's really what this was. Kewan Lacey, great running back, showed you that he can be a true 3-down threat. Harrison Wallace comes on in, loves the way that he fits in with this offense as the new number 1 receiver. The exact same way that Trey Harris did. You're feeling really good play from Daquan Wright. You saw good overall execution from Deuce Alexander in this game. People were making plays. They were setting up on good third down execution. They were moving the sticks. They were getting better at times when it came to second and third down. So it's like, it's little things like that you just have to kind of say, Ole Miss has had better talent. And ultimately, that's where we are. Because of, honestly, you couldn't ask much more, I think, from Kentucky. Defensively, you couldn't. Defensively, there was no way you could. They just don't have something offensively. I don't know what it is at all.
I worry about them a little bit on the line of scrimmage, Bear, admittedly. Defensively, too. I mean, listen, they've given up, I believe, almost 400 yards rushing in their first 2 games. So they got some things they've got some things on the defensive front, I think, to get cleaned up. You lost a ton from a season ago. That was the question we had for them coming into the season, was on the defensive side. I think Austin Simmons is going to be fine. I think the big thing this week, obviously, is keeping an eye on his health going into this Arkansas game. He went out late in that football game. Looked like he was okay, but you just can't be too careful with that. I mean, he is your dude. So, and the Arkansas game, again, you and I will talk about it. Boy, don't sleep on that one. not with the way Taylen Green's playing and to start this season. But listen, a win's a win's a win. I don't think it came probably the way. I don't know if Ole Miss fans leave this game satisfied, but you do end up getting the dub. I guess you get your revenge, quote unquote, for last year or whatever. Again, I give Kentucky a lot of credit for the way they came out, the way they played. That team, they did not come off to me as a team that is the worst in the SEC. It isn't going to win a conference game. Like, I mean, I kind of wonder now, Bears, like, is there just an awful team in the conference? I don't know. I mean, Kentucky didn't look awful to me. Like, they look solid. At least I'm not saying they're going to be good, but like, they didn't just look like, oh my God, this team, like last year, Mississippi State was a disaster.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have a team like that this year. I really don't.
So, okay. I feel like that there's kind of that middle ground where maybe you don't have the elite of the elite that is just built different. Because again, you watch as LSU marched on into Death Valley 2.0 and they handled business against Clemson. And they put up 24 points, 27 points against Louisiana Tech. You also watch as Kentucky found a way to have its fair share of struggles against Toledo, but they also went toe-to-toe with Lane Kiffin. And at one point, it felt like that they were trending into the direction where another upset was on the horizon. Like, that's what it is. Like, and like my personal opinion is, if you took away several of those deep shots, those vertical passes from Zach Calzada downfield, and instead you picked up a few more first downs, it's a more balanced offense for Kentucky to where you're not just relying on the explosive plays and you're moving the sticks and you have a bit of an identity to open up the playbook. But it does feel like Kentucky right now, they have to win with the big shots. They have to win with the 20-yard passes, the explosive plays to set up the rushing attack. And it can work, and which is why I think they may be able to get an upset win. But that's kind of where we are right now with them. So maybe there's not an elite team, but there also isn't a team that you're just like guaranteed chalk it up as a dub on the calendar when we face off against them.
There, bottom line, Ole Miss 1-0 in the SEC. They take down Kentucky 30-23. Lane Kiffin and company getting that dub in Lexington. Bear, where do we want to go next here? Outside of the games, we hit on the big ones, obviously. I think the takeaway, and I'll get your thoughts here too, but the takeaway too, we had some teams really struggle this weekend. I mean, you go look, LSU beat Louisiana Tech 23-7. Georgia beat Austin Peay 28-6. South Carolina beat SC State 38-10. But Bear, that game was 3-0 with 5 minutes left in the second quarter. And I mean, you go look at like the offensive numbers in this game, Bear. Lenora Sellers threw for 128 passing yards, 11-19, 128, had a touchdown, but the offense rushes for 125 yards against SC State. I mean, total yards for the Gamecocks, Bear, 253 total yards against South Carolina State. Lenora Sellers has been sacked more than any quarterback in the SEC, and I believe has, if not the lowest QBR, one of the lowest QBRs in the conference for a guy that, I said he was the best football player in the SEC, and many folks picked him to win the Heisman Trophy. So, right. So, I mean, like, they're having their issues. I mean, even A&M beats Utah State 44-22. Not overreacting. Maybe we're nitpicking a little bit, but like, I mean, this is an SEC, but my God, I mean, Clemson was down 16-0 to Troy.
Yeah.
It's like you're looking around the college football landscape again. Don't call it a sleepy slate because you never know, but you're like, what is going on in the college football landscape? Bear, when you see results like that, like let's just say LSU, for example, they beat La Tech 23-7. Obviously, LSU folks, you go look at LSU Twitter, talk to anybody that covers the team or is a fan, they're pissed off. Do you hit the panic button when you see results like that, or are you just kind of like, they're 18 to 22-year-old kids. They don't. As much as you try to get them to not play to the competition level, I think that happens a lot where it's like kids just can't help but see all the stuff on social media and be like, hey, we know we're playing an inferior opponent, right? Like we're not preparing like we will for Florida. So do you panic over it, or are you kind of like whatever, or are you somewhere in the middle?
I give you a week and then I decide to hit the panic button because nobody's going to complain about you winning 23-7 against Louisiana Tech when you win 40-15 or 44-24 against South Carolina or Ole Miss. When you win that game, a quality conference opponent, and you're able to show all of the strengths of your roster, the areas that you improved on, nobody looks back and says, yeah, but remember when we faced off against X team and like, you don't care. It's the bottom line. It's the matchups to where you think that you may struggle. It's the matchups to where you wonder if things are really dire. That to me is where I'm going to overreact. Like I'm not sitting here to this morning or this evening on Sunday night, saying LSU is now changed my entire opinion on who they are because of a Louisiana Tech game. Like if I want to doubt Garrett Nussmeier and this defense after what we saw last week against Clemson, then I'm just an idiot. If I want to doubt what I saw from Kirby Smart and this playbook design with Gunnar Stockton in a win 26-7 over Austin Peay, and then they go on into Knoxville and they win by 20, or they go on into Jacksonville and they win by 40 against Florida, like that's on me being stupid at that point. And I'm not saying that any of those things are going to happen. I'm just saying that that's the bottom line, is that you can overreact to a really bad loss and you respond. We can also overreact to a really good win. Like personally, I have Alabama fans in my comment section today all day. Can't believe they ranked us this low. Can't believe that we lost to Florida State and we're unable to get the job done. And then we put out a 73-0 performance against ULM. Okay, but you still lost to Florida State. Like I can do the exact same thing. I can say the exact same thing when it comes to that. Do it against a team like Florida. Do it against a team like Tennessee. Do it when you face off against Georgia in 3 weeks. Do it next week when you face off against Wisconsin, a Power 4 team. Do that. And then maybe we can start talking about things that need to change. That's when I start jumping to that conclusion. But not right now. The South Carolina game, personally, and I won't spend a lot of time on this one because we've been gone for already an hour and a half. It's a long day. We got a long day tomorrow. We still got to get a few more things. It was a 2.5-hour rain delay. Things went awry immediately. There were things that certainly were definitely not in your favor, and yet still you got to win. It wasn't a pretty win. Your special teams showed on out. You had 2 punt returns from Swain for a touchdown. You had a big-time shot downfield to Jacobs from Lenore Sellers. Defensively, you did your job. Like, you'll take that with all of the things that kind of went south. And then for Texas A&M, Bo in the comment section is 100% right. It was 44-14 going into like.
Bo, I'm nitpicking. All right,
but what I'm saying is like Marcel Reed gets hurt and they don't ever make a mistake. Miles O'Neill comes in and he looks the part of QB1. Like honestly, and I'm glad that we haven't talked about this yet. Like Texas A&M has been surprising at the quarterback position, because like last season I had my fair share of doubts. Connor Wigman, Marcel Reed. Playbook design, maybe it was the wide receivers, maybe it was just too much of an emphasis on the ground game. But right now, I feel really confident in how Marcel Reed has played, and I feel really confident in the way that we have seen Miles O'Neill came on in for those 2 drives and didn't miss a beat. Like those are things that you can talk about that are certainly wins in itself, and maybe that's also an overreaction. Texas A&M.
I love that receiver room for A&M, man. They're loaded,
and they look like they're in stride. Like they look like it's October already at this point.
Yeah, they look awesome at wide receiver, dude. Again, I was nitpicking, Bo. I promise, just nitpicking. A&M didn't struggle. We know that, although they didn't cover, and I may or may not have thrown a late bet on the Aggies. So forgive me for being salty.
Of course,
Bear, we did have a couple, and I by the way, I agree with you. I agree with you that I don't overreact either. It just, if it becomes a trend, that's a problem, sure. But like, unfortunately, it's just like whether you beat these teams by 100 or you whatever you do, it's just like I think so much. It's so hard to get teams up and have them not play down to the level of competition. Again, if it becomes a trend, problem. But like, I'm not going to go sell all my LSU stock because they beat La Tech 23-7. To me, it's almost kind of crazy to like the same people last week that after they beat Clemson, they're like proclaiming them as national champs, best team in the country. What, now you're going to go on the other side and say they suck because of one essentially meaningless non-conference game? I mean, come on, dude. If it becomes a trend, problem, sure. I guarantee you LSU is going to show up against Florida. And not have to worry about that. We did have a couple blowouts, Bear. I guess the first one I got to
get my laptop charger. Go start.
Yeah, go ahead. I do want to mention Arch Manning. Texas beat San Jose State 38-7. Good to see Arch bounce back. I got to be totally honest with you guys. Means nothing to me. Means nothing. Good for Arch. Good for Texas. Good to get a win. Obviously, after the tough one at Ohio State where you couldn't do anything on the offensive side of the football. But, guys, Arch could throw for 500 yards a game for the next 3 weeks, the next 2 weeks following, obviously. He could have thrown for 500 yards on Saturday. He could do it next weekend, the following weekend. Then they have a bye. Then they go to the Swamp. I will still have the same questions about Arch Manning and this offense that I had going into the Ohio State game, which is this. When he plays an above-average defense, and for as much shambles as Florida's in right now, I still think that defense and that front seven with guys like Sapp and Banks and others, they will give him a test. Just because you're picking on San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston, it proves nothing to me. Like, it just – I'm sorry. I just don't care. I'm glad he's not hurt, by the way, because seeing the videos of him, like, grimacing or whatever, there was the speculation. I'm glad, obviously, that's not the case. That's been cleared up. But, Bear, it just doesn't matter to me what Arch does. What he did Saturday, what he does the next 2 weeks. I've seen him pick on inferior competition. I won't get answers on Arch that I want until they go to Gainesville, to the Swamp, to take on a Florida team that, again, I know they're in shambles right now. Unless it just completely falls apart, that defense is still pretty darn good and one that I think could give them a test. So good on you for bouncing back. You obviously had to come home, get a dub, all that good stuff. But I just don't care, man. Like, I really don't care. It answers no questions for me about him.
It's good to see that he is more confident facing off against inferior competition. He had 4 touchdown passes back to back to back to back. He has shown that he has built a rapport with Parker Livingstone. He has built a rapport with Jack Endries, 2 players that were really influential in the offseason of joining the staff and being a part of the passing attack. Not having Emmett Mosley out there is opening up opportunities and avenues for other players to step on up. But he still showed those fair share of struggles. There were, like, I've seen in the comment section, he had 5 good minutes. It was more so like a quarter when you add it all up. 15 good minutes of football. There's a lot of things that he needs to correct. He did not start off hot. He certainly had his fair share of rush throws. And again, I think if it's an injury and it's not being reported, it's not being reported. So we're not going to speculate on something that we don't know. But there are things right now that just don't look natural and he doesn't feel comfortable. And you figured, is it a mental thing? Is it a physical thing? Did he get hit really rough and that became an issue? What is it that he's just not able to connect the courses of his brain to the actual throwing motions? Because you figure that there are things that he's supposed to be doing that just is second nature. And it just feels rushed and it feels a little bit obsolete. But they have a defense. And honestly, I don't think it's Nico 2.0. I see in the comment section people saying it's Nico 2.0. I don't think it's that. But I do think that the fact that you are going to be able to be bailed out by having a solid defense that is able to give you opportunities to get second chance after second chance after second chance to deliver is massive. This is still an elite defense. You know, you only gave up 14 points to Ohio State that hung 70 on Grambling. And again, it's Grambling. You heard what they said. They signed on up and said, we knew what we were coming to Ohio State for. Our bands may end up winning against each other. That might be a better game than anything else. But besides that, you know you're going to have a defense that gets you into games. What happens after that? What happens when you have to turn to Arch? And we're not going to know that until, I would say, minimum Florida, definitely Red River. At this point, whatever your opinion is of Arch, it hasn't changed, and it's not going to change. My opinion is not going to change anytime soon on how I feel about where Arch is, his progression. There are things that he did really good. There are things to make him more comfortable. I hope he is comfortable against San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston State. Because if not, we got some issues.
Bear, I do want to go back to this. Our guy Bull Molinari points it out. I apologize for not mentioning this when we were talking about A&M. Cassius Howell.
Oh, stud, dude.
Freak. 3 straight plays, a sack. I don't think I've ever seen, heard of that, anything. Cassius Howell, by the way, was my breakout player for A&M this season. Dude's a beast. Dude's a baller. And again, not that that was like some crazy proclamation. He was one of their top returning defensive guys on the defensive front. But holy smokes, I never seen that in my life. Never seen that. So, Cassius Howell, congrats on a great game to you, sir. We're getting a lot of requests here in the comments to talk about the
Let's go to
Arkansas
Arkansas.
Razorbacks. Please go crazy. Arkansas beats Arkansas State 56-14, Bear. Your leading passer, Taylen Green, with 239 yards. Bear, your leading rusher, Taylen Green, 9 carries for 151 yards and a touchdown. Bear, just take it away. Take it away with this Taylen Green hype train.
I have done some very dangerous things over the weekend as I was sitting up watching the end of UC Davis versus Washington. Going back and seeing his throws, his accuracy. He did have 2 turnovers, which is an issue that you got to clean up. But you'll take it when you have over 375 yards of offense and 6 total touchdowns. You will take that 10 times and twice on Sundays. You will. It's great. My apologies, 5 touchdowns. He has been one of the best quarterbacks that we have seen this season just by the way he plays. And there's something that you need to know. The relationship with Bob Petrino and his quarterbacks always grows from year 1 to year 2. And I did not take enough credit into that. I think a lot of people from the outside didn't take enough credit into that. He looks more confident. His throws are more decisive. Even though the wide receivers are new or haven't been able to build their rapport the way that we want to see, they're still winning in stride. Rohan Jones, the tight end, really good game. Raylan Sharp looked really good. Omega Blake has lived up to expectations when it comes to being that wide receiver number 1 mentality. And I think that playing in Little Rock is something that he just thrives in. I remember saying last season when they faced off against Little Rock, this kid is going to do things that makes me regret a lot of late night phone calls, a lot of late night bets, and a lot of late night things that I just am not going to be a fan of. He did again. And I don't know if it's just the Little Rock atmosphere. I don't know if it's just things that you look at when it comes to his persona, but he's doing the right things at the right time, and he's going to keep Arkansas in games. And the fear that I have, and this is where I got to bring Arkansas fans back to reality. The fear that I have is you don't have enough around him. You don't. And I don't know if it's defensively. I don't know if it's when it comes to the offensive line. I don't know if it comes to the running back room. I don't know what. I won't know that until you face off against Ole Miss this weekend.
That's where the rubber meets the road. That's what we're going to find out.
When you see how they look against Ole Miss, I will have a better inclination on where this roster is. And it feels wrong to say because of when you get a quarterback like that comes to your program, that ends up being kind of a baseline for where your team is. And also, he's a selling point. Like Bryson Underwood is a selling point right now at Michigan next offseason. If you're a wide receiver, you want to come to this program and play and catch balls and be in the end zone. You want to have that. I just don't know if he does right now. I don't. We'll know more next week. I want to see what the defense looks like against Austin Simmons. I want to see what this offensive personnel is going to be able to do if they take away the rushing attack. I will say this, though. He is going to keep you in every single game. That is just something that I can almost guarantee at this point. Taylen Green is going to keep you in every single game because of that relationship with Bob Petrino. Bob Petrino having a quarterback for 2 years is such a relief, I think, for the fans out in Fayetteville because of you've seen that maturity, that growth, what works, what doesn't. And Bobby takes you in the offseason and goes, okay, here's where you were terrible. We're going to cut that out, and we're just going to focus in on the good. We're not going to try to fix what isn't. What we're going to do is we're going to enhance what you're so great at, and we're going to make it such a blessing and a curse for other teams to have to deal with. And so far it has been. I mean, he has been, in my opinion, one of the most impressive quarterbacks in the SEC, if not college football. Throws, decision-making, accuracy, elusiveness, footwork, mobility, creating second-chance opportunities. That, to me, is where we are when it comes to Taylen Green. He has just been such a, I think, more confident and poised quarterback. And something that is going to at least keep Arkansas interesting this year. Because Arkansas was a team that you and I both said, we feel like that Sam Pittman's a nice guy. And when we had to start the conversation of, he's a good dude, you already know you've lost the battle. But to me, what's going to be fun is that you have a quarterback that is going to at least make you be relevant. Arkansas, to me, is relevant every single game because of who they have at quarterback. And I'm going to watch every single Arkansas game this year because of Taylen Green is playing quarterback. That's it. Bottom line. And I love that. And that's where I'm at when it comes to how well he has played through the first 2 games. They bullied Arkansas State. Offensively, defensively, they held them to, 153 rushing yards. I think it was like 310 total yards of offense. They were terrible on third down execution. They were terrible on fourth down execution. 285 total yards of offense. That's right. They won time possession, but they had no explosive plays. So it's little things like that just, I think, make such big moves for what Arkansas is doing. And again, it comes down to quarterback. And that's where you have it.
Bear, you said Taylen Green's going to make you say some very irresponsible things. They go out there and beat Ole Miss, and he balls out. Brother, I'm going to be right there with you.
Yeah.
We might have to start talking about Taylen Green and the Heisman Trophy. I'm not joking. I'm not kidding. If he keeps doing that, if he's carrying this team and willing this team, I'll be right there with you, Bear. We'll come on Sunday Fun Day, and we might have to start that Taylen Green for Heisman campaign. I'm not even joking. So
I'm okay with it.
Listen, rubber meets the road against the Ole Miss Rebels, but if it happens, big if.
Look, I was bold enough to take the play of Taylen Green at plus 6,000 odds to win the Heisman Trophy at the start of the year. I was, because you want to what? If I gotta make a pick right now, just somebody that I trust. Buy a Petrino quarterback, year 2 in the system, throw a little bit of change down. It may hit. I may be out $100. So be it. I'm very content with how I feel right now about this. I'll feel even better depending on what we see in the Ole Miss game.
Bear, we need to wrap this show up. We've been going for a while. I want to ask you real quick, though. And number one, I'll just highlight this. Tennessee, belt to ass, East Tennessee State. The offense continues to look awesome. They score 72 points in the game. Bear, the one I really want to ask you about, though, just really quickly, Bama wins 73-0 over ULM. Does it mean anything to you?
Nope. Not at all.
I mean, Todd, listen, I'll give credit. 17-17 is awesome no matter who you're playing. That's what Ty Simpson did against Louisiana Monroe. But I'm in a group chat with a couple of Bama folks that you know and some others probably out there know, and I think they got a little bit irritated with me because, they obviously were feeling really good. Vibes were high on Saturday night about the win. And I'm just like, guys, I just don't care. Like, they could have won 300-0. And it doesn't change, obviously, what happened in Tallahassee and some of the issues I think this team maybe still has. So, you love to go out there and dominate, but ULM might be the worst team in the country.
Look, I'm a Bama grad, so I know these people as well as you do. And I call it as is, and I'm never going to sugarcoat it, and I'm never going to play favoritism simply because of where I went to school or what colors I decide to represent in my college days. I very much believe that Alabama is a better team than what we saw on the field against that team down Tallahassee. Florida State may be a really good team. Did you see what they did by halftime against East Texas A&M University? Awesome. They looked the part. They certainly feel like that with how open right now the ACC is. Because if Clemson didn't look that great, SMU lost in double overtime to Baylor, it feels like that it's up for grabs. Miami, depending on what happens next week against USF, it's up for grabs. There's no excuse to be able to play that poorly and then come on out, win by 70, and say, well, look at us. We truly belong in that top 20 range. No, you don't. You haven't done anything to earn that. You haven't. You beat a team that you were supposed to beat in emphatic fashion after losing to a team simply based off of how you decided to act. Act that way against Wisconsin and tell me if this is going to be a 4-quarter battle. Act that way against Georgia, and are you losing by double digits? I'll know more at that point. And I'll give credit where credit's due. The more that we see from Florida State, maybe things have turned the corner to where this is a Seminoles team that actually is going to be a threat. But that doesn't mean anything to me right now. You were supposed to win 73-7. You were supposed to beat Florida State. These were just things that were supposed to happen because of your Alabama. Doesn't change it. Just like, again, and real fast when we come to Tennessee, because you and I were talking about this, who's the best team in the SEC? I do not believe that Tennessee is the best team in the SEC right now. But what I did tell Chris and what I told everybody else, if you told me one team I could pick, and I just know that they're going to be able to get a win based off what I've seen through the last 2 games, 8 quarters, it's Tennessee. It's far and away Tennessee. Offensively, they have an identity. They have a great ground game. They're going to get healthier on the offensive line. Defensively, they have created turnovers. I don't know if Syracuse is going to end up being a bad team. I don't know if East Tennessee State is going to end up doing anything this year. But what I've seen from the quarterback, it's a massive upgrade over Nico Iamaleava. What I've seen from the ground game, you have 3 different dudes that can absolutely push their way ahead. Defensively, they haven't missed a beat. You're finding wide receivers to work in this offense. It may end up being a 9-3 roster this year. It may end up being a 10-2 roster this year. I don't know. But what I can tell you is I know right now what I've seen from Tennessee, it feels like that they're the most complete team. It's awesome. And I've loved that. And Joey Aguilar is going to make people pay, I think, starting this week. We're going to have a fun weekend because you and I are breaking down this game. And I see you, Miss Terry's bathwater. I see.
What's the funny Miss Terry's bathwater?
But still, I do believe right now this is going to be this is going to be a game that we come back and we talk about a lot on Sunday Funday next week.
Yeah, this is also, by the way, the game that the SEC Unfiltered Tour will be going to. Tennessee, Georgia, ready going to Rocky Top, back to Knoxville. Cannot wait to hang out with all the great balls on Rocky Top. It's going to be a lot of fun. Y'all are great in the comments, by the way. We love it. All right, Bear, let's get into this. Let's overreact. Week 2 overreactions. Give me one, Bear. What's your week 2 overreaction?
Did you see the AP poll that came out today?
I did.
Okay.
There's 11 SEC teams in it.
So there's 11 SEC teams there. Number one, it was a joke because I don't understand how you can look at certain teams and say X team versus X team belongs here. Clemson barely getting by against Troy, and you're going to have Oklahoma behind them. Okay, that's ridiculous. You put Auburn in, so that was good on you. You put Mizzou in, they belonged in. Tennessee, where were they last week after they beat Syracuse? Oh, they had to hang 75 against ETSU for you to finally respect them as a top 15 program. Good for you. But my hot take is we need to ban the AP poll because they left out somebody. And I am drastically annoyed about this. And by golly, it is embarrassing. How can you say to yourself that Vanderbilt is not worthy of being in your top 25? What are you looking at in your metrics, in your rankings that says that this team, after what they did last week, hanging 34 points in the second half, over 300 more yards of offense, having a quarterback, a head coach, and an identity on offense that is so direct that nobody is going to slow them down. And they're not good enough to be in the top 25. They're not good enough to be anywhere around any of these other teams that have not been able to show me anything. What have we really seen to these other programs to make you feel like that they belong in the conversation of a top 25? So you know what? We're doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, rake Vandy, you cowards. Do so. Hashtag ANCHORCOLE because we are going to make this happen. We are going to watch in the next several days as Vanderbilt gets the respect it deserves. And they may not show up in your rankings, but they will show up in my rankings. They will show up in the right rankings because of ANCHORCOLE. Hashtag on social media is going to be trending, and we're going to know that this is a top 25 team. Absolutely.
It's all about the doors, baby. It's all about the doors. Yes, sir. It's all about Nashville. I believe. I'm a believer now. Put them in the top 25, cowards. I love that. Let's overreact, Bear. My overreaction from week 2. A lot of different directions I could go here with this. I'll go with a fun one here. My overreaction to week 2. I don't believe Georgia can get to where they want to be this season with Gunnar Stockton as their starting quarterback. I like Gunnar a lot. I just don't know. It feels like a Trevor Lawrence situation at Clemson where they had to put him in to reach that team's ceiling. I'm not necessarily saying they should just bail on him and put Ryan Puglisi in, but from what we've seen the first 2 weeks, I don't know. I like, and I know Kirby likes the veteran. He likes the guy that's not going to turn the football over, play safe. I don't know if you can play safe, though, and reach the mountaintop and get back to winning a national championship. Like, I don't know that Gunnar Stockton is that dude under center. Again, this is why it's an overreaction, because we don't really know, right? And I very well could be proven wrong. In Knoxville, he goes out there, dices them up, he balls out. The rest is history. But you're asking for an overreaction, and I feel like that one's a little bit off the beaten path. I just don't know. I just don't. There's nothing about Gunnar that's really flashy or is special or like. I mean, bro, and again, I know, like you mentioned, like the weather with the South Carolina game. It affected this one too with Georgia. It was a sloppy field. Like I get it. I get it. But if I'm going to overreact, I don't know. I don't know that they can get back to the mountaintop with a guy like Gunnar Stockton under center. The other one I'll say is this, since I was at this game, Oklahoma, Michigan. My overreaction, Bear, is I think Oklahoma can make the SEC championship. I think they could be a team in the SEC title game. I really do. I really do. I think with that defense, a game breaker at quarterback, some guys at the skill positions outside of Deion Burks even that I think are stepping up. If they can get the running game going, the offensive line's taking a step forward. They're obviously significantly better at quarterback. They're significantly better at OC. Overreaction, but I think Oklahoma could be in Atlanta at season's end playing in the SEC title. And I don't think it's crazy right now to say that if you want to power rank Oklahoma ahead of Texas, if you want to say John Mateer is a better quarterback than Arch Manning, like if those two teams played this weekend, I'd be fascinated what the spread would be. I would be fascinated by that because I think there's a lot of things to buy into more so with Oklahoma right now than there's with Texas. Now, granted, Texas is going to get another opportunity in a couple of weeks to prove themselves, but just saying. I mean, John Mateer, maybe Johnny Venmo. Johnny Venmo's for real now. This dude, he's a dog. Tim's a dog. I'll go in the foxhole with Tim. He's a real deal. So there's two overreactions for you.
Other overreaction. It goes with the number 10. We have not talked about another quarterback who wears number 10 enough so far in the first 2 weeks of the college football season. And it's not Taylen Green. It's Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed has been awesome. Marcel Reed would be my dark horse along with Taylen Green to win the Heisman Trophy. The way that he is fit in this offense for Colin Klein has been phenomenal. And I thought this team was going to rely so heavily on its rushing attack. Lavian Moss, Reuben Owens, Mari Daniels, you throw in EJ Smith. They have a great offensive line. They're supposed to be a team that absolutely crushes it with its ground and pound force. It's been through the air. It has been all throughout the air so far. Marcel Reed in 2 games has 509 passing yards, 66.8% completion rating, 7 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. He's been sacked 1 time, pass rating of 172.0. He also has 5.9 yards a carry, over 100 rushing yards, and he has a rushing touchdown, and 4 carries of over 10 yards down the field. He has been everything that you want to see from a quarterback in the first 2 games. And I get it. It was against UTSA that lost to Texas State and Utah State that had its fair share of struggles with UTEP. I get that. I completely do. The Notre Dame game is going to be the moment where he can put himself on the map. But if we're going to talk about what Taylen Green has done, and if we're going to talk about what Bo Pribula has done, I think it's best that we also just throw in who is a guy that consistently has shown up for his team in a year where we were talking about all these other things for Texas A&M. We're talking about the rushing attack. We were talking about the defense. Year 2 with Mike Elko. We were talking about the offensive line. We were talking about Cassius Howell being a breakout player. And here is Marcel Reed. There were people who said that this guy's going to get benched by the time that we get to the season's end. And he has been as advertised at a program that truly has needed to get a quarterback that can win in so many different facets. It just, to me, feels like he is not getting talked about enough. Because you have the fan, because like honestly, when you hear from Texas A&M fans, they're talking about Cassius Howell right now, or they're bitching about the fact they can't run the football, or they're complaining about or they're talking about the wide receivers with Mario Craver and how well he's looked, and Casey Concepcion and how well he's looked. And it's like you also have a quarterback that's force feeding them downfield. and making plays left and right. You got to feel really good about that. I think it's an overreaction to say that Marcel Reed is the best kept secret in the SEC from the national perspective. Not enough people are paying enough attention.
He'll get his chance this weekend at Notre Dame in South Bend. Bear, excited to break down that game with you. Finally, let's hand out some Atta Boys of the week. Bear, somebody you want to give a high five to, good job, helmet sticker, however you want to phrase it, a tip of the cap, what have you. Atta Boy of the week, Bear, who are you going with?
I misjudged you, Jeff Levy. I did. I'm so sorry. I don't even want to be laughing about this, but Jeff Levy, the way that you have been able to, I think, change the narrative on not just this offense, but also the way that we view Mississippi State has been impressive. And I never gave you a shot. I thought that John Summerall was the right guy for the job. I have to eat crow in this one. You have been, as advertised as a coach this season, you have been phenomenal when it comes to your play design. Having Blake Shapen back as your quarterback, we are seeing what the identity of your offense is. You made sure that you went out and you brought in a running back that could pair alongside with Davin Booth. Both have been extremely successful. And you got that signature win. You got that signature win. You may end up going 1-7 in conference play this year. But because of you beat a top 15 team in your backyard, and you were able to show that you had the more balanced offensive approach, and you got the quarterback right, and you didn't panic and go to the portal or just tell Shapen to leave elsewhere. You figured it out and just stuck your guns and did things your way. Atta boy, Jeff Levy. Atta boy for making me look like an idiot.
Good for you, Jeff Levy. The Bears come around on Jeff Levy. We love it. My attaboy of the week, Bear. I got to give it to Sooner Nation, man. I'll give it to one specifically. My guy, Travis Davidson of the Ref. Shout out to him. One of the best tour guides I've ever had when it comes to the SEC Unfiltered Tour. I tell people this all the time, Bear, and I have a great time. We have a great time where we go, but the tour is only as good as our tour guides. The tour is only as good as the people who go out of their way to accommodate us, to show us around, to show us the ropes. My guy, Travis Davidson, did as good a job, if not a better job, than anybody has in the essentially 2 years of us doing the tour. My weekend in Norman was phenomenal because of him. So my attaboy goes to Travis and all of Sooner Nation. That, again, the SEC Unfiltered brand is strong down in Boomer Sooner country. And we love you guys for that. We appreciate that. I got asked where the bear was more than a couple of times. Where's the bear?
Really?
Where's the bear? He's back in the cave. Where's the bear? No, it was awesome. I mean, listen, Sooner Nation was incredible. We really appreciate y'all. I can't wait to get back. Really, truly. So, again, take a bow. Like I said, my attaboy of the week, Travis Davidson. Shout out Tyler McComas. Parker Thune had me on in pregame show. My guy, Josh Mahler. Chad Tierney, that entire Voice of Oklahoma college football team, and all the great fans we met. I mean, it's just awesome. Everybody was awesome. Everybody was first class. So, attaboy, Sooner Nation. Attaboy.
I have one more honorable attaboy this week that I have to give out because I think that it's important. And he's not an SEC guy, but it's important to what is the game of college football. Alex Golish, thank you. You get an attaboy. And it's not because you beat Florida. It's not because of your show that Billy Napier made us look foolish. The reason is because of, again, so many people truly believe that you can take a Saturday off every single week. Not a good slate, not a good number of games, not going to be any upsets, can't win your parlay, can't be able to have your opportunities to where you get where you get cash on in. You don't know the betting line, so therefore it's going to be a sleepy Saturday. You made people remember why, once again, you can't afford to miss a Saturday in the fall. You made sure, once again, that people had to be fully attentive, fully prepared, and bring the best version of their game to show up to the Saturday split. Because that's what it was. You showed up, and you had everybody out here complaining, bitching, and moaning about what Billy Napier did and how this team wasn't fully prepared and how they were lackluster and how now we got to hit the reset button. But you know what you did? You prepared yourself, because if you knew for a fact that there is no off day on a Saturday. There is no such thing as a boring slate in college football. So thank you for reminding the college football public that you got this team prepared enough to where they were ready to go. So an Atta Boy to you for proving to the world that we knew that there is no such thing as off Saturday. Appreciate you. Very much appreciate you, Alex Golish, for that one.
Atta Boy, Golish. Atta Boy. Hey, we appreciate y'all. Thank you. This was the most electric, although it's only been our, third, I guess. But most electric Sunday fun day to this point. They're only going to get more exciting. They're only going to get more energetic because this season is only going to continue to heat up. And we cannot say thank you enough to each and every single one of you that comes in, floods the comments. Those that don't comment and just hang out with us, thank y'all. Those listening via podcast, again, we're truly grateful for each and every single one of you. Also, thank you, Sooner Nation, for accommodating us over this past weekend. It was a blast. It was worth every minute of my 9.5-hour trek there and back. I can't wait to get to Rocky Top this upcoming weekend. Just down the road, a lot shorter trek for you, boy, but it's going to be a great time. Rocky Top always delivers. Tennessee fans are some of the best in the game, and I cannot wait to hang out with y'all yet again. So, Bear, I appreciate you. This was a lot of fun. Really, really good stuff. Week 2 is officially in the books, guys. Make sure, reminder, the Overtime Drive will be back tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we'll be previewing Week 3, getting our best bets, setting the scenes. We got previews and predictions and stuff dropping starting tomorrow. We're going to have you set. Going to be another busy week from yours truly, both of us. Content bleeding out of the eyeballs. You already know the drill. Going to have a ton of fun. Then Overtime Drive, of course, back on Thursday night as we lock in all of our picks in our Pick'em show. So until tomorrow night, again, appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure, as always, you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast. If you get your podcast, you can also find us across all social media channels as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And before we get out of here, make sure I don't forget, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel because, as always, we are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Guys, the NFL's here. FanDuel's got you ready for the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, bet $5. If it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style. FanDuel's got you covered. The NFL season's almost here. The only question is, are you ready to play? Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Once again, FanDuel.com/SECU to get in on the action today. Guys, once again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Stay tuned to the Overtime Drive back on Monday, Thursday. Y'all know the drill. And stay tuned to all of our content bleeding out of the eyeballs. Once again, this is the Overtime Drive, SEC Unfiltered, SEC football show, the best SEC football show on the internet. He's the best in the business, Cole the Bear Thompson. I'm Chris Phillips. We're signing off. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Sunday night. Get you some rest because we're back tomorrow night doing it all over again. Until then, y'all take care. Peace. We'll talk to you soon.